Hello, everyone. This is Ranting Ray. An exciting video today. Charlie talks with Mike Rowe. I was a big Mike Rowe fan growing up when he did the show Dirty Jobs on, I forget the network, maybe Discovery Channel or something like that. History Channel? Not History Channel. But anyways, I loved him on Dirty Jobs. He's done a lot of other shows since then. Big Mike Rowe fan. Let's see what they have to say.
It's Mike Rowe, founder and CEO of MikeRoweWorks.org. Mike, welcome to the program.
Charlie, thanks for having me. I will endeavor to be thoughtful and cogent.
Well, very good. So Mike, tell us about MikeRoweWorks.org. It's a terrific project. Introduce our audience to it, please.
Sure. I did a show called Dirty Jobs for about 20 years. And back in 2008, that show was I think it was the number one show on Discovery, maybe on cable. I don't remember. It was a big deal. And a lot of nice things were happening for me. And the country went into a recession, which was not so nice. And then there were 11 million unemployed people, which was not so nice. And then I noticed in the course of filming Dirty Jobs, everywhere we went, we saw something really unusual. We saw help wanted signs. So that was the first time in my life where I realized that a lot of unemployed people didn't have really anything directly to do with a lack of jobs. There were 2.3 million open positions in the country at that point. Most of them didn't require a four-year degree. They required the mastery of a skill, right? And so I began to think of these things as dirty jobs opportunities, and they were all better than most people thought. Many of them provided a direct path to make six figures. Anyway, MikeRoweWorks started as an attempt to shine a light on those opportunities as they existed back in 2008, 2009. It evolved into a trade resource center that was built by fans of Dirty Jobs so people could go online and they could search for opportunities in plumbing or heating and air conditioning, electric, welding, mechanical, all those things. So suddenly we had this really cool trade resource center that was going from coast to coast. We had thousands of opportunities being highlighted, again, none of which required a four-year degree. Flashing forward, it's really become a kind of, it's a scholarship program. We award a couple $1 million every year in work ethic scholarships. In fact, we just started a new round yesterday, so I'll be shamelessly flogging that over the course of our conversation. But we also developed a work ethic curriculum, which we finally got into a big high school just last week in Las Vegas. So we're super excited about that. The short version is MikeRoweWorks exists to shine a light on opportunities that don't require a four-year degree, to make a more persuasive case for work ethic, to challenge stigmas, stereotypes, myths, and misperceptions that keep a whole generation of kids from pursuing all of these opportunities. And we try and do it with a measure of ennui, self-deprecation, irony, and good humor.
These two are a good match for each other because Charlie Kirk is a big proponent of, he pushes the talking point a lot that college is a scam. And he highlights cases like, people go and they get degrees in these super niche majors or areas of study that they have no job prospects at all. And then they get out of college, they have this worthless degree, and they can't find a job. And then their student loans that they use to get that degree just slowly are swallowing them. And then they don't have the wherewithal or conscious or awareness to go maybe try to become a teacher or join the military for 3 or 4 years or do something else that offers student loan forgiveness to help them get back on their, get rid of those student loans or something like that. And then, of course, Charlie didn't go to college. He tried to get into West Point, but didn't get accepted. And then I think eventually he took some courses at Texas State University or something like that, a couple courses. And then he took some online courses at Hillsdale College. And I think they gave him an honorary degree because he took 30 or so courses, actually, passed them all. But yeah, Charlie, big proponent of big advocate of going into trades, pushes the idea college is a scam. And the Mike Rowe here really pushing people towards becoming tradesmen and doing trade jobs. So this is a nice little collaboration, a nice little marriage of great personalities here. Let's keep going.
Well, I love it, and that is certainly on message for us. I have, and still am, a critic of four-year college in its current form and fashion and what it is not delivering. One of the things I was struck by watching your television program growing.
Let me just add one more thing. So I have a master's in education myself. My undergraduate was in history. My bachelor's was in history. When I go to do my master's program, even though I had a bachelor's in history, my master's program required me to take a 100 level history class. I already had a bachelor's degree in history. Like, what the heck? I take it. It's the easiest shit I've ever done in my life. I didn't even have to take notes or do anything. I'm not great. I was never great at school. Like, I got pretty good grades overall. Not college so much, but that's for a variety of other reasons we won't get into. But normally, for me to be successful in a class, I got to take a bunch of notes. I got to study a bunch, etc. Didn't have to do shit in that class. I just show up, just listen. Hey, of course, because I got a fucking degree in the subject. Why are they making it a prerequisite for someone who has a bachelor's degree in the subject to go take a 100 level course in it for a master's degree in a subject that's not even fucking related to it? I mean, it kind of is if you're going into educate. I was going into education with a concentration in social studies, but like I already got a degree in it. It's just absurd. It doesn't make any sense.
Up is how much people loved their job, even though it was. Can you comment on that? And I don't know. You were like at some place shoveling manure, or I don't know, just like the stereotypical. Yeah. And then you would always ask them, "Hey, what do you think?" They're like, "I love my job," and I was just, yeah. It's almost every single episode had something of that essence.
Well, we really look. I wish I could tell you that was a thing that I always believed in my soul was happening in the workforce, but just needed to be elevated. I didn't know that. All I knew for sure is that my granddad, Carl Noble, only went to the 7th grade and was a skilled tradesman in virtually every field. He could build a house without a blueprint. And I wanted to do a show that elevated men and women like him who had that set of skills. But once we got into it, like season 2, season 3, season 4, we did 350 of these jobs. But once we got into it, you're right. People started asking me, what do these dirty jobbers know as a group that the rest of us forgotten? Because they all seem to be having a ball, and they're all covered with feces from every species, and toilets are exploding in people's faces, and you're up to your neck in misadventures and animal husbandry, and right? So there was a really fun level of cognitive dissonance between the adversity and the challenge posed by all of these jobs collectively, and the great joy and good humor and pride that we found in the people who were doing it. Right. So I guess it's kind of an obvious thing. I mean, if you grew up, with a certain set of values instilled upon you, you would never think to make work the enemy. You would suppose that there'd be dignity in all jobs. But what we learned in 2004, 2005, and certainly today is that our country has, to a certain degree, made work into the enemy. We have made work the proximate cause of our discontent. And in so many ways, you can see this play out from Madison Avenue in sitcoms and portrayals of skilled tradespeople and so forth. And, not to make it a polemic, but it became real clear that there were warring narratives in the country. One had to do with the basic dignity of work, and the other had to do with the point I just made, which was the best path for the most people had to be a 4-year degree. And to challenge those ideas, right, to shine a light on the skills gap and say, look, this is not a figment of our imagination. We have right now, Charlie, and I know you know this, 11 million unfilled jobs in our country. Most of them don't require a 4-year degree. They require training. And so, my soapbox for all this really comes down to the existence of all that opportunity juxtaposed with $1.7 trillion in student loans and our stubborn insistence to still tell a whole generation of kids that they're screwed without a 4-year degree. It's nuts.
Yeah. And I want to just zero in on that for a second. We have about 2 minutes left in this segment, which, Mike, as you were going to, episode 30, 40, how happy they are regardless of what they're doing, you contrast that if you walk into Google, I don't think that their coders are as happy as someone who is on, and I mean this, was it just a shtick for the cameras, or were they legitimately like joyous in what, I'm curious because most employers are saying they have a mental health crisis with their workers, yet you demonstrated over 350 episodes the joy in doing what most people wouldn't even think of doing, the incomprehensible.
So a lot of these dirty jobs, like I don't know if you haven't seen any of the episodes of Micro's Dirty Jobs. I mean, great series. First off, go check it out. But a lot of these are they're the dirtiest of the dirty jobs. Like when he says covered in feces from every species, that's not an exaggeration. He even did one job on a farm where they deal with cows and like inseminating the cows. You take your hand and you gotta stick it in there to do something. I don't know the purpose, but oh man, he did everything. Now that most of these things, they're the dirtiest of the dirty. So something that comes with that is they pay well. So a lot of these pay well. And if you're someone out there, you're doing one of these jobs, one, it's a job that has to be done. It has to be done to keep society running. Two, if you're the type of person to have one of these jobs, you're able to recognize that, hey, this is work. I have to work to put food on the table. I have to work to I don't know, enjoy hobbies, whatever. Work precludes everything else. If you don't have an income, then you can't live your life. So if you're getting paid well, it really shouldn't matter what you're doing. You should be grateful for the opportunity to show up, make some money, and support the kind of lifestyle you want to live. And that's really all there is to it.
A lot of people thought it was put on. And to be honest, I did too for a little while, because reality TV has a way of feeding on itself, yes. The Heisenberg, right? People start to do what they think you want them to do, but not on this show. We didn't do second takes. We didn't do any rehearsing. We didn't do any casting. We never did any writing. We were true fly on the wall observers of work. And, we showed you precisely what we saw. So look, the short answer to your question really comes down to job satisfaction. And what we're doing today, we're telling kids, look, if you want to be happy in your work, the first thing you do is identify the job you believe you want to do. Mm-hmm. And then you go about the business of borrowing whatever it takes to get whatever credential is required. And then you'll have the right to sit in a cubicle somewhere and code or do whatever you're going to do. And then you can let yourself be happy. Well, that's backwards, right? On Dirty Jobs, these people were very passionate about what they did, Charlie, but they didn't follow their passion. They followed the opportunity, and then they figured out a way to love it.
I want to dive deeper into that. And the question I'm going to ask, and we're going to go through the breaks here, Mike, to maximize your time, is there something inherently fulfilling about working with one's hands that we might be missing? And I mean, just as how God wired us and how God made us. And I think I know what the answer to that is, but if you just kind of sit and pitter-patter on a laptop for 8 hours a day and go home and stare at a screen, are you missing a huge component of God's design? Is there something inherently dignifying for a human being to work with their hands?
There's something inherently satisfying. Dignity, I think, is one of those things we get to assign to any task. Mm-hmm. That's really up to us. And I guess to some degree satisfaction is too. But one of the big lessons on Dirty Jobs, and certainly one of the things you can find if you peruse the Old and New Testament, is the satisfaction that comes from always knowing how you're doing, right?
Yes.
Like I'm sitting here at my desk right now talking to you, and I'm looking around, and everything on it is pretty much going to be on it 8 hours from now. My desk looks it looks like it looks at 6 a.m. and it looks the same at 6 p.m. So I might sit here and I might write something really thoughtful. I might create something good. I might say something wise. Who the heck knows? But I don't have any visual cues in my life to tell me how I'm doing when I'm working at my desk. Not really. When you're inspecting a sewer or building a bridge or mining for coal or gold or something in between, or fishing on the Bering Sea or cleaning skulls in Oklahoma City, yeah, that's a job. You always know how you're doing. And it took a while. Again, I'm not sure how many lessons I learned doing the show or how many lessons I was reminded of that I had forgotten. But that's a big one. The simple joy of knowing how you're doing at all times is a big benefit of working with your hands and mastering a skill.
And being able to track your progress and to have some sort of a destination. For example, hey, I got to put up this drywall. I have to paint this wall. Can you contrast that, Mike, with the kind of purposelessness, for lack of a better term, or lack of purpose that you find in, upper middle class corporate culture, where you sit at the desk, answer the phone, and it's kind of as if you're on an endless circle?
Well, rather than pick on them, let's pick on our own industry, right? I mean, you work really hard. I've seen your work at Turning Point. It's great. I've listened to your show. I like it. I work hard too. And then we're done. And what do? I mean, if you're me, like maybe you'll go to your social pages and see what the response is. Maybe you'll go to Nielsen to see if anybody's listening. Maybe you'll go to PodTrack, or whoever tracks your podcast. Is your audience up? Is it down? Are the advertisers happy or are they sad? Is Rough Greens coming back for 6 more or 8 more? Right? So we want to know how we're doing. And it's not because we're craven or overly materialistic, but it's because we work and we understand there's a cause and an effect. There's a customer, there's a client, there's a listener, there's a viewer, there's a producer, there's a writer. So, being aware of all of those things that are inherently true in the human condition, I do think helps everyone navigate whatever path they put themselves on. My complaint is what we've done as a society. My complaint is the way we've put our thumb on the scale and promoted one form of education,
yes,
and all the types of jobs that come with it at the expense of all the others. Well, we were just talking about the way society elevates or de-elevates forms of education and by extension, certain jobs. This happened, it happens all the time, but in my life, I first noticed it when we pulled shop class out of high school. If there was a dumber thing fraught with more unintended consequences that's ever happened in the history of education, I'm not sure what it would be. When we pulled shop class out of high school, we removed from view an entire category of jobs. And we basically sent a message to a whole generation of kids that said, don't even bother. Don't even bother looking at opportunities in mechanical repair or carpentry or plumbing or electric or heating and air conditioning. That was a remarkably powerful and profoundly stupid thing to do. But we did it because we were trying to elevate the importance of a 4-year degree. And to be fair, back in the 70s, those degrees needed to be elevated. We needed more engineers, we needed more teachers, we needed more doctors. Fine. But to promote that path by telling a whole generation of kids that they would be doing themselves a disservice by taking any other path, that's where we got into trouble. And so, on the one hand, I'm just saying it's PR. We elevate what we value, and that's a very conscious decision. And so today, we don't just have a skills gap, we have a will gap. We have really identified a whole category of jobs as vocational consolation prizes, as something subordinate, in
Yes.
other words.
I will say when I was growing up, we did have shop class and stuff like that. But I do understand between that time and today, it went away a little bit. Fortunately, I was back in a classroom here recently for a little bit, and they had all kinds of like classes like classes like that I'd never even heard of. A lot of farm to table classes where they learn to like take care of animals, raise chickens, stuff like that, bunnies, how to grow and source their own food, good stuff like that. Robotics classes. A couple of my extended family took robotics classes in school. Then what else? Auto automotive classes, all kinds of good stuff. So in some places, at least, we're seeing a return to this kind of education. Obviously, they're just electives. They're not required classes, but it's good to see them being offered.
And now we're reaping the whirlwind.
And so I speak a lot about the topic of not going to college. I wrote a book called The College Scam. I didn't go to college, and so I'm the best and worst person to address this. And the objection I get from parents, they'll agree, hey, the colleges have gone, ideologically off the reservation, but they'll always lean in and almost whisper, Mike, but I still want my kid to go to college.
Yeah.
Of course, because they're scared, Charlie.
Yeah, so it's not too complicated. Parents want their kids to go to college, so they have more options. You can go to college, you can get a degree, and hey, maybe you decide you don't want to do a job in that field of study even after you get the degree. Well, you still have the option to if you change your mind, right? But now you can also go pursue a trade or something like that. The only downside is it does put that a little bit of financial pressure on you to go ahead and find a job quickly so you can begin paying back those loans. But again, that's where things like just taking a one contract with the military, but 3 years I think it is for enlisted folk, or becoming a teacher or something else. There's a couple other options out there. Go do something short term that gives you student loan forgiveness. Excuse me. Go do something short term that gives you student loan forgiveness, and then go from there. So you don't have to. The choice isn't. You have options. You don't have to sit there and get just destroyed by student loan debt. You just got to make a choice and do what's best for you.
They're scared. There's no playbook. We don't want to screw our kids up. We want to give them every hope, every opportunity. But look, the magic of college has become, in my view, decoupled from the education you can attain. A college degree has nothing to do with wisdom. It has nothing to do with smarts. That's what they're selling.
Yeah. All a college degree is I mean, this is all of formal education. All it is it's how much, well, if you have an eidetic or photographic memory, it's free for you, right? You just read something and you remember it and you go past the test. Okay, easy. But for most people, all it is how hard you work. How much did you study? How much effort did you put into getting a good grade? Whatever. And then did you put in enough effort to get your degree? That's pretty much it. So yeah, it has nothing to do with wisdom or smarts or anything like that. I mean, you can go get an A on a test. A week later, you've forgotten everything you had to know to get that A on the test. I think most of us can speak to that.
But that's not really what's for sale. What's for sale are connections and prestige and fear and a great many other things that go into the pressure that many, many, many millions of kids have felt when it comes time to sign on the dotted line. They don't know what they want to be. They don't know what they want to do. They don't know what they want to major in. But all of these questions need to be answered, and then vast sums need to be borrowed, and then the screws get tightened. And that's what we did. You know, it was a colossal disservice in my view. And we're still doing it. I'm looking at an article. You should see this thing. It's over on Axios right now.
I saw it this morning. I was going to ask you. It was on the deck to actually ask you. I was going to play devil's advocate. If we're talking about the same thing, which is that college is still necessary. By the way, the data they share is all nonsense, but please.
Any data you get from Axios is going to be nonsense. Terrible publication.
Mike, I'd love to.
So the chart, okay, the chart on this thing.
We're on the same page.
Okay, so the chart shows two things. It shows people with 4-year degrees earning an average of $60,000 a year. And then it shows people with high school diplomas earning much less, something like $40,000, right? And the author is just basically creating a giant advertisement for higher education, the same kind of ad that's been running for decades. Yes. It's nonsense. Are you kidding me? Look, that's like saying that an expensive 4-year school is going to lead you to make more money over the course of your life than if you stop your education at 18 years of age. Is like saying joining a really expensive gym is going to lead you to be healthier and more fit if you stop working out when you're 18. Well, no kidding. Of course.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
But they completely ignore, Charlie, what about the kid who graduates high school and then goes to a trade school, goes through an apprenticeship program, starts welding, starts plumbing, buys a van, hires some friends, starts a mechanical contracting business, and is now making $350,000 a year.
Yes.
People who go through my foundation every day, they're not on this chart.
I mean, Mike, I have so much respect for the muscular class. When I need HVAC or air conditioning work, they charge whatever they want. I ask them what they're making, and they're making a lot more than their counterparts who got some flashy degree from the university down the road. Mike, I'm so glad you saw that Axios piece, and I just want to add kind of my take on it as well. Number one, they don't mention that nearly I think it's 41% of people that enter college don't graduate. They don't graduate. Wow. So there's the national dropout rate. And they don't factor in continuing certification or being able to get skills after high school. Yes, if you just stay as a high school graduate with your high school diploma, then you very well might stay in a certain income level. And also, it doesn't factor in, by the way, your ability to ascend in the job and get more skills, to become an entrepreneur, own your own business, and they don't factor in the debt burden, not to mention the ideological type pollutants that you very well avoid when you go to college. Mike, I want to talk about this article here. I just get the title so our audience can follow along, but your thoughts, Mike?
Well, they don't factor in any of the many individual characteristics that are within our ability to control. Work ethic, delayed gratification, curiosity, initiative, ambition, all qualities that have a direct impact on the likelihood of a person to prosper. What they do is they assume that all of those virtues are baked in to a diploma.
Yes.
Right? That's the working assumption. And it's completely backwards. It's causation without correlation. It's like that old study I remember reading about when I was in college that talked about the incredible way that reported ice cream sales increased in lockstep with reports of sexual assault. It was amazing. And people were like, what's happening here? Is ice cream leading men to commit more rapes, more sexual assaults? No. It's just that in the summertime, when it gets hot, all sorts of interesting things start to happen sociologically. Ice cream sales, for instance, go up, but so too do all forms of violence and attacks. And so it's so easy to be confused by facts that really aren't correlated at all.
A lot of data that comes out. You see this. What they'll do is they will hyperfixate on one or two specific variables And the people who gather this data, most of the time, they already have a desired outcome or a desired conclusion in mind, which renders their research worthless in the first place. But they'll they'll only focus on one or two variables, and they will ignore a litany of other variables that affect whatever it is they're looking at. The gender pay gap is a great example. The reason people say, and I agree, that the gender pay gap is a myth is because all the data on it doesn't account for a number of variables, such as the most important of which is the jobs that men and women decide and choose to pursue. Women pursue jobs that pay less overall. It's crazy to me.
And my argument today is really exactly that. Yeah, a college degree is a thing, and it can absolutely help you. And in no way am I opposed to being curious and becoming as educated as you can if you can afford it. A college degree at any cost is laughable. That's like saying a house at any cost, a gym membership at any cost. The cost matters. Never mind what you were talking about before, vis-a-vis indoctrination and actually the quality of the education. Assume it's all decent. You can't simply argue, as this author is, that a degree is sacrosanct, regardless of its price.
That's right. And if I had to speculate, Mike, just, I know Axios, they do a kind of a lot of industry type articles. This feels as if this is a college industry article, meaning the kind of, would you agree that their college enrollment is going down? Faith in college is going down. This feels like an article that's a paid for type article.
They're scared. They're scared to death. You can look at the numbers. I'm not going to take a victory lap, but I do think my foundation, we're 16 years at this now. I know we're moving the needle. I know we've had an impact, at least getting people to at least think through the cost of the transaction. But look, this is an existential problem. If you really look beyond articles like this, which are just silly on their face, the college president scandal here of late, that's not silly. Having donors who routinely stroke checks for many millions of dollars to Harvard and Penn and MIT and so forth, having those people go, hey, you know what? Not this year. I think I'm going to take a miss this year, right? 50 charges of plagiarism. Really, Claudine? 50? $51 billion in an endowment sitting there at Harvard alone, just sitting there.
Yep.
And meanwhile, the whole country is watching a conversation where student debt is being forgiven, even as it's being shouldered by the people that my foundation helps train. People who affirmatively avoided the debt and learned a skill that was in demand, one of these muscular jobs as you described them. They're the people who are going to pay the freight.
Yeah, this conversation. I'm guessing this interview was going on while Joe Biden and company were talking about student loan forgiveness, and just the idea of taking money through taxes from hardworking people who, like Mike said, they made the conscious decision, hey, I don't want to go into debt for something that might not guarantee me a good paying job, something that can support me and my family if I have one, or support me in my dreams. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to go do this other thing and make a living that way. And now they're successful, they're making a living. Or maybe they're not successful, maybe they're struggling. Even worse in that case, because now they're going to be hit with some of that burden if we went through with the student loan forgiveness, because that's going to add to their tax burden. It's just completely absurd to do that. And yes, I understand the counter argument to that is something Mike touches on too. And that's that a lot of these students who have these student loans, they didn't fully understand the financial burden that would be associated with that. And they did have this idea that college is necessary to be successful pushed on them. So they felt extremely pressured to go to college. I do understand that as well, but still, you go to college when you're an adult, when you're 18, 19, whatever it is. A lot of people, they'll take an off year and then they'll go to their freshman year of college. You are an adult at that point. We have decided that 18 years old, you are an adult. So if you enter into this huge financial transaction without a full understanding of what that means, it's nobody's fault but yours, ultimately, because you are an adult at that time. It's your responsibility. You can blame your parents if you want. You can blame your teachers if you want, et cetera, et cetera. That's all fine and good, but at that point, you are an adult. It is your responsibility. And other adults who they had the foresight and the wisdom to look at that and say, no, that's not for me, I'm going to go down this other path, that they do not deserve to be burdened by the mistakes you made.
And articles like this perpetuate
That's
the
right.
thinking that brings us to a place that I think is fundamentally unfair.
And they're spot on bringing up this Axios article with this chart too. You know, college graduates, they make this much, and non-college graduates, they make this much, way less. That's the same kind of stuff they'd be showing us, showing me 2 decades ago in high school, all throughout high school. They would show us these charts. They would put questions like this into our tests with examples like this. Billy went to college and got a degree. He's making $125,000 a year. Sally didn't go to college. She works as a plumber. They'd even use like jobs that we know now. Now that we have the knowledge and the awareness, we know they make very good money, but they wouldn't represent it that way. They'd say, Sally didn't go to college. She's working as this. She's only making $65,000 a year, yada, yada. They would insert stuff like that into our standardized testing even. So, yeah, they're subtly just pushing this ideology, pushing us to go to college while we're in school. It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Vast majority of college grads a decade after graduation get a job that doesn't require a college degree, but the debt stays with them. So Mike, I could tell you that, I'll visit the suburbs of Chicago where I grew up, and certain friends and people that I know, they'll come up, they'll say, Charlie, it's nice that you run Turning Point and you got 400 employees, all that stuff, but when are you going back to college? And they mean it with a straight face.
They have over 1,000 full-time employees now, by the way.
They'll say, we really got to get that piece of paper figured out, that diploma. Mike, how do we deprogram that? It is embedded in the psyche of, I don't want to say the ruling class, but just the managerial class in this country. It is a thought-terminating cliche that if you don't have a college degree, you're almost looked at as the unwashed in this country.
Yeah, look, the problem with the PR campaign that we were talking about before, that higher education did need back in the 60s and 70s, is that it went too far. And it went so far that it came at the expense of all other forms of learning. You're asking, how do we unwind that? Well,
Yes.
I think the same way we wound it up. In my foundation, what I try and do is, initially, there wasn't much I could do except tell anecdotal stories about what I had seen and raise a lot of money. We've given away about $9 million in work ethic scholarships so far. But we didn't start to move the needle until I was able to circle back to people who we had assisted 4 or 5 years earlier and ask this question: how's it going? And all of a sudden, on camera, I'm listening to men and women, some of whom got a $6,000 welding certificate, tell me about the second kid who's on the way, tell me about the house they bought, tell me about the conspicuous lack of debt on their personal finance page, and then tell me about the $140,000, $180,000 a year they're making as a result of mastering a skill that's in demand. When you get people like that talking passionately to me about the opportunities that they unlocked by taking one of these skilled jobs, that moves the needle. So we have to do that. We have to carpet bomb the internet, and we have to make a much more persuasive case for the opportunities that exist by challenging the myths and misperceptions and stigmas and stereotypes that keep people from giving them an honest look. But the other thing that has to happen, and shout out to Walmart because they're doing it, they're removing the box.
I love it. That's
that
so
you have to
important.
check.
Yes.
They're doing it. Coke Industries is doing it. There's I wish I had the whole list because those companies deserve a big shout out because it's risky, it's scary, and when the author of that article we were talking about sees big companies doing that thing, that's when they can feel the foundation starting to crumble.
I presume he's talking about removing the requirement to have a college degree to work there. I mean, Walmart and Coca-Cola, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know why you would have to have a college degree to work at Walmart or Coca-Cola, but on the other hand, I don't know what kind of work you do at Coca-Cola. So
beneath them, because look, ma'am, this is my final point on this, and it's an important one because I get the same kind of pushback that you do.
Yes.
When you go out there and you start challenging the primacy of a 4-year degree. I didn't have this thing. And for the people listening, I'm holding up my cell phone right now. I didn't have this device in 1984 when I was in college. Part of what I paid for back then was access.
mm-hmm.
I needed access to information. I was curious enough. I was interested enough. And I certainly benefited from some good instructors. But really, the cost of college came down to access.
Yeah.
That's gone now.
That's
I
right.
have access to... Dude, I have access to 98% of all the known information in the world. I just watched a lecture at MIT last week for free.
Yep.
On a plane.
If you have the will and desire to go and learn something, this day and age, you can do it. If you put the time and effort into learning how to do something, you can do it. All through your phone or computer, with internet access, you can go learn. Whether that's playing the piano, learning arts, anything like that, you can do it. If you want to learn how to draw, you can find videos that tell you the exact type of pencils, the exact type of eraser, the exact type of paper. You can find the most particular of details that you're curious about, and you can go find that. Now, I mean, there's a lot of bad information out there which can make things difficult. Like you can get some bad recommendations. Like I got this big marker set, which is like I don't know, $120. A lot of markers, pretty good, but I have not used them a lot. But I mean, that's more on me than anything, because after you do the line art on a drawing, it is scary to go in there and start putting color on it. So, man, you make one wrong move and it's kind of just ruined, because you cannot pick that color back up off the page. But that's more of a personal problem than anything. So I should have started with a smaller marker pack, a little cheaper. But yeah, if you have that wherewithal, the desire to go learn something, you can do it these days. So
the same thing these kids are paying thousands of dollars for. So I'm not saying an internet connection is the same thing as a degree from Harvard, but I am saying the information is the same. Yeah. The access is suddenly free. And what are we doing?
And you can see that in a lot of Charlie Kirk's debates, actually. He's out there quoting Rousseau and philosophers, Aristotle, Socrates, all these people. And the college students he's speaking to, or the professors he's speaking to, et cetera, they have no clue what he's talking about. They've never heard of these people. They're not familiar with their works. They just don't know, because when you go to college, you're not really there to... They sell it as you're there to get an overall education, a general education, and they have, they make you take one course in this, one course in this, one course in this, no matter what your major is. But if you don't commit to knowing about that stuff, you don't know it. So they just go past that class and then they forget it all. And then they go learn their gender studies or whatever bullshit they learn. And they don't learn about Aristotle. They don't learn about Socrates. They don't learn all this stuff. They don't learn about Locke, Rousseau, etc. So if you're not, and this comes around to the conversation of learning with intent too. If there's no intent behind your learning, then you're not going to learn it well. 2, you're not going to retain the information. And 3, well, 3 is just kind of restating number 2. So you're not going to learn it well, and you're not going to retain the information. And if you don't do either of those, you're not going to become smarter. You're not going to become a wiser individual, right?
How in the world did the cost of college go up during Zoom class, during the lockdowns? How did they do that with a straight face? How did Columbia increase everybody's tuition at a time when they weren't even welcomed in the classroom? It's upside down, man. It's upside
And Mike,
down.
that was always, one of the one-liners that parents would give me. Well, they get to meet a lot of people, and it's a good chance to network. You couldn't even do that during COVID. It was all Zoom class, man.
Yep.
You can do that in jail. You can meet all kinds of interesting people in prison. I don't recommend you send your kid. Okay? Look, again, my point was, I am not anti-education. And I'm not even though I loved your book, The College Scam, and even though I agree with most of it, I'm not anti-college. I'm anti-cookie cutter advice.
Yes.
I'm anti-bromide. I'm anti-debt. And I just wish people looked at this, one of the most consequential financial transactions in their life,
Yep.
through the same lens as they look at any other large purchase.
Yep. Look at it like buying a new car. Like, oh my God, you're not going to go spend $50,000 on a brand new truck like I did. I'm stupid for that. I should have got something cheaper. But you're not going to do that without some serious consideration. You're going to go, okay, how much am I making a month? What's the monthly payment going to be on this? Will I be able to afford the monthly payment? How much am I going to have left over after the monthly payment? What's the life expectancy on this vehicle? What mechanical? What are the most common mechanical issues associated with sales of this vehicle? With these vehicles that are out there that have been driven around? Is there anything really expensive that I might have to shell out a couple $1,000s to get fixed just because of how they manufactured it? What kind of warranty can I get on it? All this stuff. How much is it to replace the tires? That's got some pretty big tires. I don't know. My old car had smaller tires. They were like, I don't know, $80 a pop. This one, oh my gosh, $200 a pop on this. Am I going to be able to afford that every couple of years? That's a big price tag. So you're going to look at all this stuff, right? What's the gas mileage? If I get something with bad gas mileage, oh, that's this much money every year compared to this much money every year on this vehicle with better fuel economy. So we definitely do not see that kind of analysis in our college choice, and that's just a terrible thing. And I will say one good thing, that's why the in-state tuition cost, giving students much lower tuition for in-state tuition. I think that is such a good thing that states do. I think there needs to be a much bigger emphasis on students going to in-state colleges for that reason. But at the same time, I understand why people want to. A lot of kids want to get away from home at that point. A lot of people want to do that. Heck, I did it. My family members did it. Well, 2 out of 4 of us did it. So, like, I don't know. It's there needs to be a lot more consideration to the price.
And ask themselves the same practical question, separate and apart from, it's an investment in your future. No, it's not. It's not an investment in your future. It's a conscious decision you need to make about the best way to satisfy curiosity.
It's an investment in your future if you have a solid plan of action. Not if you're like most people who enter into college and they're like, I still don't know what I want to do. Like, heck, I changed my major a number of times through college. And then I actually wanted to get a biology degree, but I wasn't able to fulfill the course load in time for a 4-year degree. So I went with what I was already leaning towards. It's just tough.
It's ridiculous to attach trillions of dollars to that.
Yeah.
Mike, can you also talk about how employers, you mentioned Coke and Walmart, they're not moving as far as them, but they're less and less satisfied with the crop of talent that college is producing. Can you speak about that?
I can tell you in 1955, the average GPA of the average Harvard graduate was 2.5.
Wow.
Today, the average GPA for the average Harvard graduate in 2023 was 3.9.
Oh.
Now, did kids get that much smarter
Hell
over
no.
the last 55, 60 years?
They've gotten dumber.
Or is it
In my
possible
opinion.
that the standards in the Ivy League have dipped.
Yeah.
Is it possible that we all got wind of the fact that what we're really buying is a credential
Yep.
and not necessarily an education?
Mm-hmm.
Your point is exactly right. And I have friends now. I know a guy who runs a law firm and he still hires Harvard grads. And he might very well wind up with a smart, curious young man or woman who has a great work ethic and is dedicated to being the best lawyer they can possibly be. Or he might wind up with a third generation legacy kid who had a great time and showed up to some classes and used Chat GPT to write some essays and got his 3.9 or hers. It's hard to know. And you're right. It's a very strange thing to continue to bet on, but that's the power of inertia. And that same tendency among a lot of companies to hire from certain schools and assign a certain value to an old rubric like a GPA, that's not dissimilar from the fear that parents have. That's what Varsity Blues was all about.
Yes.
By any means necessary, get my kid into the magic lane where the doors will swing open, right? So that's what you're fighting against. So when you see a company like Walmart eliminate that box, you have to give them credit. You know, there's a big story a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you saw it, but it's the $400,000 job at Walmart. $400,000 a year to manage a supercenter. No college degree required. And they promote from
By the way,
within.
that's not an easy job, just so everyone's clear. I mean, every day
Heck
someone's
no.
doing something weird, stealing something. You got inventory, supply chains. That is, I wouldn't want that job. However, I bet they love it because it's fulfilling and you could track your progress. Not to mention, it pays very well. You can manage a Costco, manage a Chick-fil-A. Those pay very, very well. And so Mike, the other talking point that some people will use is, but Charlie, the robots are going to replace all these jobs. Now, hilariously, it turns out that the first wave of job displacement are the coders and the artists and the people that got these goofy degrees. Mike Rowe, how do you answer the looming artificial intelligence, the robots are coming to unemploy the working class talking point?
Yeah, I mean, look, history is a wheel, Charlie. It spins. And anybody with the aforementioned internet hookup can just Google the Luddite Rebellion. And you can read about what the loomers did and what happened in the weaving industry in England hundreds of years ago when technology came along and posed an existential threat. And it was crystal clear to the smartest brains out there that all the weavers were going to lose their jobs because of the advent of the loom. It didn't happen. Was there disruption? Yeah. But it changed in ways that we simply couldn't have anticipated. My crystal ball is super cloudy with regard to where we're going to be in 10 years, courtesy of the robots, the tech, and the AI. But I firmly believe that it's one door closes, another door opens.
Yep.
I'm not an expert in this area. I do believe we're going to live to see self-driving cars. I think we're going to live to see AI running buildings. I think NVIDIA is probably going to double and then double again. I hope so. I own some, but it's hard to know how to feel about it because it also scares the heck out of me. I got a thing in the mail the other day. Guy said, Mike, you'll love this. I asked an AI program to narrate these two paragraphs in the style of Mike Rowe, narrating an episode of Deadliest Catch. I clicked on the link, and you know something? Had I not known it was computer generated, I would have assumed it was me narrating an old episode. I couldn't tell the difference. So, look, this is Pandora's box. This is a tool, and how it impacts work is only one question. Because, like all tools, it can be used for great good and great mischief. It's like a gun. It's like the smartphone. It's like so many other things out there. So, look, we're being asked to get up to speed with regard to a great many different types of tools, and it's making us anxious for good cause. But we've been here before, folks. there is nothing new in the world. It all feels new because we're seeing it for the first time. But we have been there and we have done that. And in the end, there's still going to be a list of jobs that are not going to be replaced. No way, no how. Plumbers, steam fitters, pipe fitters, mechanics, welders. They're here to stay. And we're here to train them.
Mike, tell us more about this scholarship. You're giving away $1 million.
We historically give away about $2 million a year in work ethic scholarships. It's happening right now at microworks.org. These are scholarships specifically for men and women who do not wish to pursue a 4-year degree, but who would instead prefer to learn a skill that's in demand. Any of the construction trades, but also cosmetology and farriers. And there's so many jobs out there right now that are open that require training, not a typical collegiate credential. That money's set apart for those people. There are some hoops to jump through. These are work ethic scholarships, so you got to make a case for yourself. You know, you're going to have to write a few paragraphs about this and that, maybe make a video. Got to provide references and so forth. Things you need to do in the real world. But we've been doing this, foundation started in 2008 on Labor Day, and the scholarship program has been going on now for about 9 or 10 years. So we do it because we do want to help individuals who are possessed of the sorts of qualities that we want to elevate. But we also do it because, full disclosure, I want to use you in a couple of years. I want to be able to talk to people who are making a go of it in the trades, because as we discussed before, their testimony is powerful. And fundamentally, what we're trying to do at MicroWorks is change the attitude that has brought us to this place where so many millions of parents are convinced the best path for the most people is the most expensive path. That's why we have the scholarship program. And we also have a curriculum, a work ethic curriculum, and we're really excited about this. We finally got it into a big high school in Las Vegas. This is a simple curriculum that is designed for 10th and 11th graders primarily. And I didn't think of it as an antidote to CRT or ESG or DEI, but it kind of is. It gives teachers a chance to work through with their students a basic understanding of what work ethic is and why it's important and how it can help you. But what's really cool about this program, Charlie, is that of the 750 kids in the freshman class over at Western High in Clark County, Las Vegas, the top 50 will be given a full ride scholarship to any trade school in the country.
Wow.
So we finally figured out a way to elevate work ethic, to talk about it in the classroom, and then to reward the kids who most persuasively embrace it. That's what we're up to.
We are seeing a profound need in this country. 11 million unfilled jobs in this country. 11 million unfilled jobs. And so, Mike, just for those that are in the audience that are curious, kind of just go through the list of some of the technical training areas where people can start that they might not have thought of, job openings, opportunities. Obviously, we talk about plumbers, electricians, and welders, but it goes a lot deeper than that, from auto repair mechanics. And you have this quote I want to just have you elaborate on. Never follow your passion, but always bring it with you. Mike Rowe.
It's a good quote.
Well, I mean, that's another Dirty Jobs lesson. You know, I think about,
Bring the passion.
you've seen them, the successories, you know, they hang on the walls of God knows how many conference rooms, and they say things like, you know, teamwork, and it's a picture of some guys rowing a boat together or something, or persistence and some guys climbing a mountain, or, you know, always stay the course. You know, some guys sailing a ship. By the way, always staying the course makes good sense if you're sailing in the right direction. So on Dirty Jobs, we took sort of a dim view of these bromides, and we offered sort of a dirty alternative to them. One of the big ones was always follow your passion. And I think that so many kids wind up going down the wrong road precisely because they followed their passion. That's not to say you shouldn't have a dream, and certainly not to say you shouldn't be passionate about whatever it is you're doing. But the idea that your quest for job satisfaction or happiness in general, whether you're looking for your dream job or your soulmate, the idea that that search would be led by your passion, I think is a mistake. And of the many dirty jobbers I met and worked with over the years, I've just seen this borne out over and over again. I mentioned it at the top of the show, but it's worth circling back on, because the happiest people I know today are not working in the field they thought they wanted to be in. In other words, it's not a straight line between what you want to be when you grow up to what you wind up doing when you're grown. And if you use passion as the sole barometer of that, as your true north, you're going to get led all over the place, because passion's a fickle thing. But if you follow opportunity, and if you conduct an honest inventory of your own skill set, and you enhance those skills, and you apply it toward the opportunity at hand, it's perfectly within your power to decide to feel good about that and to be passionate about it. So yeah, on Dirty Jobs, we said never follow your passion, but always bring it with you. And not to torture the point unnecessarily, but for further proof, just look at any early episode of American Idol. Watch the auditions. Hundreds, thousands of people following their passion, only to learn for the first time, usually on national TV, that they can't sing.
Yep.
Thus,
the good days of American Idol, where they just let pretty much anybody in. I'm sure they did an initial screening, so they didn't let crazy people in there, right? But they'd let a bunch of people in who are just god awful singers. I haven't watched American Idol a lot in recent years, but a year or two, I caught a couple of episodes from the initial audition stages, and they had already screened people so they could get like decent singers in there, and it loses so much entertainment value. Simon Cowell going in there and just eviscerating people who could not sing at all and telling it to them straight. Peak entertainment value. When you go and you do an initial screening and you only let people in who they have a decent voice, at least they'll have a chance to pass, and you don't even have a judge that's gonna just give people the cold, honest truth. It loses so much. Modern American Idol, not for me, but it was great.
their dream.
And another point on that, I mean, you could be passionate about something, but if you're truly passionate about something, you need to set yourself in reality. You need to acknowledge where your current skill level is with regards to that. You need to give yourself an honest assessment. That way, you know what to work on, and you can take appropriate steps to improve yourself and set appropriate goals to meet. You got all these people going on American Idol, and they can't sing worth a shit, and that you got to feel bad for them, because they're like, oh, my mom and dad or my friends, they said I'm such a good singer. Well, I hate to tell you, but they must be fucking deaf. Yeah, it's just not great.
Usually on national TV, that they can't sing. Thus, their dream and their skill set is suddenly revealed to be wildly out of whack with what they hope to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a long way of saying follow the opportunity. Figure out how to love it later.
About a minute and a half remaining. Mike, any closing thoughts or things you want to plug for our audience? More about your foundation, scholarship opportunities, please. The floor is yours.
Well, opportunities are everywhere, and it worries me today of all the things that our country is wrestling with. I think the idea that opportunity is dead is one of the most dangerous. I just saw a poll the other day in the Wall Street Journal that said 64% of Americans believe the American dream is dead. And I worry about what might happen when that number continues to creep up. A big part of what we're doing at MicroWorks is showing you where the opportunities are and offering to train people to become proficient in those opportunities. Because look, the evidence is out there and it demands a verdict. Great book. You probably saw it, Charlie, once upon a time. A guy named Josh McDowell wrote it. Mm-hmm. It's called The evidence demands a verdict. That was a book on Christian apologetics. I'm talking more about the undeniable fact that opportunity is still out there. And there are forces at work for reasons that elude me that are determined to tell kids that the opportunities are dead and that the system is rigged and that there is no hope. I don't believe that. My foundation makes a persuasive case to the contrary, and anybody in your life, including you, who wants to learn a skill that's in demand, we'd love to help pay for the training. You can apply
Love
for a
it.
work ethic scholarship at microworks.org.
Micro, God bless you. That was an excellent hour. Thank you for being generous with your time, and I pray it impacts our audience and someone in the middle that might be looking for a new career, new path. Thanks so much, Micro. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, good interview with Micro, microworks.org. Love Micro, love Charlie Kirk. The only thing I'd say on his thoughts at the data he brought up at the end there about 64% of Americans thinking the American dream is dead. I think a giant factor in that is the exploding cost of housing. And nowadays we know a little bit more about that. You have giga companies like BlackRock going around buying up a bunch of houses for sale, and then they hike the price up to sell them to individuals. And I really do think we need some kind of legislation against that. There's no way it should be legal for big companies to go around and just buy up all the housing and then crank up the price and sell them to consumers. That should certainly be illegal. But yeah, excellent interview, Charlie Kirk interview in Micro. If you haven't checked out Dirty Jobs or his other show, Deadliest Catch, and he's done some other shows as well. I forget the titles, but if you haven't checked out Micro and all his work, go check him out. He's got a voice like honey. You can sit there and listen to it forever. Excellent narrator, excellent commentator, and very interesting work as well, especially on Dirty Jobs and Deadliest Catch. But yeah, that's about it. Drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Yeah, that's about it. Peace.